Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Ewood Park. Welcome to Pink and Channels. I'm kind of Southall, joined by Paddy Davitt here in Lancashire to bring you the Norwich City team news, which we expect to drop in a couple of minutes' time. And the good news is, because the cover tweeted it, Emi Marcondes is here, so we would anticipate that he takes up a spot at very least in the squad, and we'll see how it all unfolds from there as well, which is a good place to start, Paddy, because I think anyone being back, and we're expecting Lewis Dobbin to be here as well today, but to have Emi Marcondes back is a big boost ahead of a big game.
Yeah, experience, that's what you get with him, and ability, technical ability, quality. We'll await the actual team lineup. Might be a stretch, maybe put him back in straight to the 11, but great option to have off the bench, absolutely, yeah. And without McLean, without all those other central midfielders, that's a big boost, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting the way Norwich City's warm-up works traditionally. Two goalkeepers come out early, and when usually one of them is George Long, but we've got at the moment Vicente Reyes and I think Dan Barton out there, which doesn't necessarily mean he's not here, but that's just one to keep an eye on in the 2 minutes that we wait for team news. We've obviously seen Marcelino Nunez here, Josh Sargent here. There's the usual Norwich City big hitters, and I guess, Paddy, before we delve into the team news, which we're expecting in about a minute or so, this, you get to a stage in a championship season where games begin to feel a little bit extra, where it feels like there's a little bit more riding on them. I think I'm very much in the camp today that Norwich City can't afford to lose today. It doesn't feel like a must-win at this stage, but definitely feels like a must-not-lose.
Yeah, because they're playing a team who are sixth at kick-off, and they have the same aspirations. And between where Blackburn are on the table and Norwich, huge pack of 4 or 5 clubs, not huge, but a sizable pack of clubs all chasing 5th and 6th. You lose ground, others will win. It feels exponentially at this stage of the season with games running out a bigger miss. So, yeah, I agree. Don't lose today. And if you draw, then you keep Blackburn in your sights. And obviously there'll maybe be other teams in that pack who do win. And it'll look slightly better afternoon for them. But with home games to come, yeah, a draw here today isn't the worst result for me.
No, agreed, and we are just waiting any second now to see the Norwich City team that does drop. In terms of Norwich fans, just to reply to Kyle, 900 we are expecting here this afternoon. The Norwich City team is as follows: gunning goal, Fisher, Duffy, Cordoba and Crizene as the back 4, Nunez, Sorensen and Slimani as the midfield 3, with Dobbin, Sainz and Sargent the front 3. So no Lucien Mahovo. On the subs bench, Reyes, so no George Long, McConville, Stacey, Wright, Marcondes, Miles, Schwartau, Sienats and Onel Hernandez. So just to run through that team for you again, it's Angus Gunn in goal, Fisher, Duffy, Cordoba and Crizene, who's in for Lucien Mahovo. The same midfield 3 as last week, Sorensen with Nunez and Slimani either side. The same front 3 as well as was the case last weekend. Dobbin on the right, Sainz on the left, with Josh Sargent down the middle. And just to run through that bench for you again, Reyes, McConville, Stacey, Wright, Marcondes, Miles, Schwartau, Sienats and Onel Hernandez. Left back, Paddy, it's a shame for Lucien Mahovo, isn't it? It's been such a brilliant run that he's had, a form of a really first sort of senior run in the team. We're going to guess that's probably injury related, which, it feels like a blow for him at the stage that he is at with his Norwich City development, where he just began to really, I guess, settle down, and people weren't talking about him as this young player who sort of waltzed into the team. A couple of difficult games more recently against Hull and Preston, but was good last weekend.
Absolutely. I thought he came back to what he'd shown when he first came in last weekend against Stoke, both on the front foot and in terms of his defending. After two games, and entirely understandable, 2 games of more uncomfortable, but you're going to get that with a young player. Certainly the accelerated path, and Ben Napper talked about this midweek with him as a case study. He's been on an unbelievable trajectory. It's not going to continue to go skyrocketing, and he had plateaued, but he came back strong. You were there Wednesday. He didn't indicate there was any other fitness-related issues, so we'll bowl that at him post-match. In terms of Mahovo, it has to be fitness-related, you would assume, to come straight out of the squad. And it's another opportunity for Crizene, really, isn't it? Ultimately, so
it's a former club.
True, yeah. So, and you'd think he would have a point to prove, because he would have come in at the start of the season thinking of the new young thing on the block, and he's been bypassed to a degree by Mahovo. Let's hope, of the type of character he is, he wants to now show today that, no, hang on, this isn't Lucien Mahovo's shirt now. I'm here and I'm in this conversation, and he'll only do that with a positive performance today. And with I'm just looking about who you could go left back wise. Otherwise, it's maybe Stacey and it's Fisher and have a sort of shuffle that way. But that's not the natural fit. The natural fit is to go with Ben Kraseni. So, they believe in him, they trust in him. That's why they brought him to the club. It's probably not been the season he would have envisaged in terms of coming in and getting game time and staying in the side. But, it's all part of his development. Let's see, like Mahovo has done, can he grasp his opportunity again today?
I'll tell you what it does, though. With obviously Callum Doyle serving the second of his 2-game ban today, you could look at next Friday putting him back into that left-back slot. Obviously, if that's something that is going to keep Lucian Mahovo out for a few weeks. We've spoken so much about how you get Cordoba and Doyle and Duffy probably into the same team, and that maybe is an avenue to return to what they almost started the season with, potentially. So, yeah, but a real opportunity for Ben Kraseni here today to try and break that narrative, to try and alter it. And it's maybe, as you say, maybe not been the season that he would have liked in terms of consistency, but what an opportunity he has got. And in terms of the midfield three, I mean, we saw that really function nicely last weekend. I think, I had some question marks about the blend and whether it would be dynamic enough to cope with maybe what Stoke had on offer, but the blend proved to be right. Jakob Sorensen making his 100th Norwich City appearance today. Obviously, Marcelino Nunez, you hope a week further on, can go a little bit deeper into this game. And Slimani, I guess there's room for improvement for as well. So the fact they've got now a front six that for 2 games has been pretty settled and functioned really nicely last weekend, it's a good thing that Yannis Oftol hasn't really been afforded a luxury of too often this season.
No, and he's spoken about that. That's hit their quest for consistency in results and performances. Bob Marley, sorry, I'm getting distracted by a quality Bob Marley tune bearing out in here in Lancashire. But I said it on the Instagram live this morning at the hotel. I thought what was good about that blend was that it was Sorensen sitting more in a more withdrawn role, and that afforded Nunez and Slimani the licence to further forward, more progressive, play in those pockets, link with that front three, and it's the same front three. So to be able to name that's essentially the same 6, how good they were in that first hour, particularly against Stoke. Okay, they're away from home today, and Blackburn will have different ideas maybe to Stoke, but that's encouraging if they can continue on that same path, and particularly Nunez, if he can get into those areas again as he did for an hour last week and call the shots and pull the strings. A front three of Sainz, Sargent and Dobbin, yes please, because they will get opportunities against this team today. So, yeah, I just hope they carry on in the same vein, that central midfield three with a more defensively minded Sorensen, because I think that is his game. And likewise, I think Slimani and Nunez are better further forward. So that did work quite well. And it's a rare luxury. What was it, 18 combinations in central midfield this season? Well, probably for the first time in quite some time, he's been able to go with the same 3. So that's reflective in terms of the consistency and the performance levels today.
Yeah, we'll bring you the Blackburn team in just a moment or so, but the headline is Todd Campbell starts for them this afternoon. Obviously his first reunion against Norwich City. So does Adam Forshaw, of course, who was very briefly a Norwich City player. Paddy, the good news is Lewis Dobbin fit and available, which, Johannes indicated that would be the case in midweek. Obviously came off at half-time against Stoke last weekend. Slight calf issue. We know how explosive he is. That always felt a little bit more like sort of risk management rather than any sort of concern for a long period of time. But that front three last weekend, the way they tweaked it, how narrow they were, how much closer they got to Sargent, really functioned well.
Yeah, like I said, yeah, and the ability for Nunez and Slimani to play in more progressive areas of the pitch and make that work. I mean, how did that first goal come about last week? Cast your mind back. It was Nunez sliding a ball into that central left-hand channel for Dobbin to run through. It wasn't, speculative balls to players who weren't in the right positions to be penetrative and actually get shots away. It was a very well-constructed team performance in forward areas last week, and more of the same today. I think we could expect because of the seamlessness that worked well, and Dobbin was a key part of that, absolutely. And I think he has now emerged, inevitably, given the lack of game time really he had at West Brom. It was going to take him a while to adapt, but I think there's no doubt now he has some attributes in his game that work very well in a Johannes style of football, and particularly we know Jurasek now, he's become quite a key facet of that attacking three, I think, because obviously we know what Sainz brings. If you've got something else on the other flank to Sargent, and you're in this case, the Blackburn back four today, it's very difficult to try and nullify all those threats because, really that front three have a little bit of everything, and if they're supported properly by the midfielders behind them, and of course the fullbacks, because it's worth pointing out last week as well. What was noticeable at Kellen Fisher particularly, very high, very wide, very advanced in terms of his starting positions a lot of the time. We see a bit more of that again today, and that's Grzeni's natural game as well. Then what that does allow Norwich is to try and pin in Blackburn as they did with Stoke and just keep waves after waves of attacking threat. And if they do that, as I keep saying, you've got the best number 9 in the division. If you create chances, he will score goals.
Yeah, well, he scored 2 from 12 touches last week, so he doesn't need much invitation. Adam, are we in a position to bring you the Blackburn team? We are. Here it is. It's pairs in goal. Britton, Carter, Hyam and Ribeiro as their back four. Travis and Forshaw, the midfield. 2, Dolan on the right, Cardbo on the left, and Cantwell behind Gay, obviously their first team under Valerian Ishmael, who was appointed earlier this week. Their subs bench: Toff, Sanderson, Rankin, Costello, Tronstad, Hedges, Vyman, Dennis, Woodrow and Ahashi. A lot of attacking options on that bench from a Blackburn perspective. And I guess we've got to speak about Todd Cantwell, Pad, haven't we? His first time against Norwich City. You can imagine he's absolutely chomping at the bit after maybe everything that's unfolded in the last couple of years or so.
I'm sure he is. With anybody from afar has built up a picture of him and his personality. He'd probably relish this environment today, and not in any way, shape, or form to metaphorically put 2 fingers up to, because I think at no point has he ever looked back on his time at Norwich and what it gave him and the platform it gave him with anything other than fondness and affection. He's a Norfolk lad. Why would he have anything? Clearly, he had his issues with certain individuals. That's fair to say, but they've moved on. He's moved on. Hasn't quite worked out for him subsequently. I think his career path, this is another opportunity for him to rebuild. He was, by all accounts, very good up until the period where he got injured. But he's back in today. From a Norwich point of view, I hope that isn't the story and it isn't a Cantwell-inspired Blackburn performance. I'm more concerned, if I'm honest, about the fact it's Valerian and Ishmael coming in for his first game in charge and the uplift that might have on Rovers. But, it's a shame. We don't need to rehash the Todd Cantwell Norwich story. It's a shame because there was a player there who of some promise and it wasn't realised in the Norwich shirt. So he's gone his way and Norwich have gone their way. Their paths crossed today, but I think this story is now much bigger than Cantwell or Norwich today. It's about this group of players on this journey under Yanis and Ben and Mark Atanasio and his group, trying to almost emulate a story that Todd played a part in, which was the Farker and Webber. Two promotions out of this division and 2 attempts at Premier League football. So time moves on. I mean, I'd be interested to see what the reaction is of the fan base. What's the reaction of the 900 or so? I think he takes their corners, doesn't he? I think I might be right in saying. So, there might be opportunities where he has to come over in front of that away end and what the reaction is. But that's just a sideshow today. Isn't about him and Norwich. It's about Norwich coming here and getting a result and continuing on this path to hopefully being in the promotion playoff mix right down to the wire.
Yeah, indeed. And I think it would be a shame if there was a negative reaction to him. Like you said, for the reason that I know it didn't work out and there's clearly a lot of strong feelings towards him. But I can only speak about speaking to Todd a couple of times. I know you have, and I always found him to be quite pleasant and actually quite a deep thinker about the game, which maybe isn't the perception that's out there. And hey, as you said, it's about ensuring today he doesn't have the opportunity to step into a role and to be almost the main character in this particular story. Footnote from the Norwich team news pad: no George Long, which is interesting. We can only imagine that he's either injury or illness related, really.
Absolutely, yeah. But we're told about it. There are these younger keepers coming through, and maybe in a roundabout way, his absence today. I mean, it's Reyes who gets the nod today, so it's a good opportunity for him to come back into a first-team environment for his parent club. He's been out on loan, had a taste of it lower down the Football League, but particularly in the context of Gunny seemingly looking like he's going to move on in the summer, there's going to be some churn in terms of the keeper department moving forward, and if this is an opportunity just to see how Reyes reacts and carries himself in this environment today, then that might have benefits further down the line. But again, a bit like with Mahova, we don't know at this stage with Long, so we won't speculate, but we'll put it to Yanis after the game. It can only be fitness or illness related, I would imagine.
Yes, indeed. There's plenty going about at the moment, isn't there? I want to speak about Shane Duffy. Obviously, there's been a lot of attention on him and maybe his struggles last weekend against Stoke. I think he's been largely pretty good for Norwich City this season, actually. Maybe not quite as good post-Christmas as he was pre-Christmas, but still fairly consistent. You go down the team list, he represents real experience. Coming back to a place where I don't think he's the most popular. I think that's fair to say in the most diplomatic way. I had obviously a spell at Blackburn that ended maybe not the way that the fans would have particularly liked prior to that move to Brighton. Johannes has offered a defence of him in the week. He's stuck with him today. He'll be open to see a reaction, won't he, from some of those mistakes that admittedly did leave him frustrated last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair assessment for me. I don't think second part of the season he has been quite in the very narrower part of the centre-back profile. The work on the ball hasn't been good enough most weeks, if I'm honest. Cashing my back to the Sheffield United goal at Bramall Lane, where he's passed it aimlessly from his right-back area into the edge of the box, or edge of his own box, and Harrison Burrows has rifled and past Gunny. Gunny could have done better with the shot, but again, sourced from a Shane Duffy costly turnover, and we saw evidence of that last week. So I think in general, I certainly won't get hung up on what he did against Stoke. I just think in general, second part of the season, he's not been good enough on the ball most weeks, because it's not really his natural, game, is it? It's something he can do, and he looked reasonably competent doing it in the first part of the season. But for me, it's at the moment it's a bit of a holding pattern, much as there is with the keeper situation, with the centre back situation moving into the summer. That Doyle will go back to Man City. You brought in McConville. You've got Brad Hills to come back in, Cordoba, obviously. So Shane Duffy, is he a part of it in the bigger picture? Clearly not, you would suggest, both in terms of he'd be 12 months out from contractual status, so there's that, there's his age, but there's also, I think, if we're being brutally honest, he doesn't feel the most comfortable in possession, and a centre-back in a Johannes off-top system has to be very comfortable in under pressure, getting pressed, and having the ball at your feet. So let's hope we're not talking about Shane Duffy in terms of what's gone wrong on the ball today, because that will just perpetuate, I think, this sense that maybe moving forward into next season, he probably isn't going to be a player who you will build, or Johannes will build his back four around, I think. Yeah,
I think today might be actually a game that suits him probably a little bit more than last week. You'd expect. It depends, again, what Ishmael we get, because his Barnsley team was completely different to his West Brom team. But if he goes direct and it's into Gay, then you can see that being a game that suits Shane Duffy a little bit more. Paddy, big game, as you said. Must not lose. How do you see it unfolding?
Well, I set a draw on the Instagram this morning. Could I see Norwich edging it? Yes, if they continued in the same vein as they did against Stoke and cut out those errors at the other end of the pitch. Equally, it's hard to sort of bake in the Ishmael factor and how Blackburn respond to that. So I think you're going to have to weigh up all the probables and probably say a draw, which in the grand scheme of things, with Oxford and Sheffield United Wednesday, to come at Carrow Road, I'd take that if they followed up and didn't do what they did against Derby and Preston. If you get a draw on the road here and then two positive results at Carrow Road, then they're going to be still in that mix, and that's what it's all about at this stage.
Yeah, Desmond, for me, 2-2 this afternoon. I could see that. As you said, the factors that obviously are here with Ishmael. I don't think it's a game that Norwich City can afford to lose, if I'm honest. It wouldn't be the end of the road and the end of the story. Well, you have to say where you are, Lee, but we'll wave generally at the away end, and hopefully you can see us waving.
Who's that with the two fingers?
In that away end as well. I don't know what that's about, but yeah, there we go. I can't see anyone waving at us, but hopefully you've seen us, Lee. And it's a brilliant turn. 900 for a lunchtime kickoff on the TV, long old way as we can testify. It's a brilliant effort, and hopefully they are rewarded with a result here this afternoon. Pinger.com, the place to go throughout the afternoon. We'll have all the coverage, analysis, reaction from Johannes off top, including obviously the updates on Lucian Movo and George Long, etc. So stay tuned for that. And of course, let's hope that Norwich City can advance their claims for a top 6 place this afternoon. Thanks for watching. See you soon.